Welcome to Divorce Law with attorney David Badanes.
Hello and welcome to Divorce Law with experienced attorney David Badanes. David has extensive experience in divorce, child custody, child support, divorce mediation, as well as estate planning matters. David personally handles each client with the personalized attention they deserve. I am your host, Kevin Rosenquist, and in today's episode, we are going to do some myth busting. We're going to go over the top 10 myths about divorce. David, great to see you.
Great seeing you again. How are you?
I'm doing great. All right, so I'm excited for this. You're gonna give us the top 10 myths about divorces, and let's just jump in. Can you want to start with number 10?
Sure. Child support ends at 18 years of age. Well, that is false. In New York State, child support ends at 21 years of age. There are some exceptions, but many other states it does end at 18 or 19 or 20. But in New York State, it is 21 years of age. So a lot of people, they think the myth that it ends at 18, it is at 21. Even though at 18, you're considered an adult. It's a little bit of a quirk of New York State law.
Is it kind of because they're thinking, well, after 18, you go to college or you go to trade school or something like that?
Yeah, basically that's what it is. That's the thought process, I guess. I wasn't there when they passed the law. That's many moons ago. But I guess that's it, that they feel that children still need support even after 18.
Yeah. That makes sense.
All right. So the next myth is
number 9.
Yeah, number 9. The house or the deed is in my name only, so my spouse does not own it. Well, that one, it kind of depends. Most likely, if you bought the house after the marriage, it doesn't matter that the deed is only in your name. You and your spouse will have equal ownership. However, let's say you inherited the house after marriage, or it was a gift and only given to you, then it could be considered separate property. Again, this is an issue you really should talk to your attorney about. But again, most of the time, just because the deed is in your name only does not mean that you only own it. So again, really depends on the circumstances.
Now that's interesting to me because it seems like so if I'm in New York, I buy a house, my name's on the deed.
Well, did you buy it before or after marriage? That's the key point.
Okay.
If you bought it before marriage, then it would be separate property, and we could talk about that as well. But after marriage, you're pretty much anything you buy is the default rule is it's marital property. Again, exceptions usually are inheritance or gifts.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. And then if you buy it before, then that's considered. Did you need a prenup in order to say that
No,
that's only yours?
If you bought it before and it's only in your name, then it would be a separate property.
Okay. All right. I did not know that. All right. Well, all right. Number 8.
My spouse had an extramarital affair, so I get more money for child support or maintenance. Well, almost always false. Okay. Rarely does an extramarital affair affect the amount of child support or the maintenance that you receive. Nowadays, the judges almost don't even care. And again, very, very limited exceptions. But typically, just because your spouse had an affair does not affect how much you're going to get in child support or spousal maintenance.
That's an interesting one to me because I don't know. I would not have expected that to be the case. So, but people do expect it.
That's why it's a myth.
But some people believe that they should get more compensation.
Well, morally, again, morals and law don't always mix. But right. So morally, we could say that should be the case, but the law is pretty clear that it really doesn't. And that's why I say it's a very, very limited exceptions.
Yeah. I mean, it does. You do kind of have to keep the morality and the law separate because everyone's got their own ideas of what's moral, right?
Well, that's true too. That is true too.
Okay. Well, we're blowing through these. Let's go to number 7. We're on number 7.
Okay. Once the judge hears my side of the story, the judge will believe me and I'll get everything I want. Well, again, almost always false. I mean, I know people watch TV and the movies. That's not how it is. I mean, trials are first of all, they're very, very rare. More importantly, you don't get to just spit out your story and a long narrative. It's, a question, you answer, question, answer. And then, of course, the other attorney gets to what's called cross-examination and try to blow holes or falsehoods or whatever. So, and of course, your spouse is going to have their chance to say what they're going to say.
Sure.
So as much as you may think you're in the right, so to speak, there's almost always two sides of every issue and story. So again, going to trial is a very rare event, and also very rare that you're going to win 100% of what you think you're going to win.
So when cases do go to trial, is it generally because there is just no chance of an agreement between the two parties?
There could be a couple of reasons. One, that is it. Typically before anything goes to trial, the parties and the attorneys are really engaged in a lot of negotiation. I mean, I just actually settled the trial. We were in negotiation, seemed like for weeks, and everybody had to give a little bit. That's the thing about compromise. Everybody usually gives a little bit. So that's one reason. The other reason is sometimes you want to go to trial because the other side, again, and this is rare, has done something that is very egregious and that you can prove. So, but that's very, very rare.
Yeah. All right. Number 6.
The amount of child support that I will have to pay is based on my take-home pay. And I emphasize the word take-home. In New York State, this is, again, almost always false. So as most people know, if you're a W-2 employee, you have your gross pay, you get your Social Security and Medicare taxes taken out, and of course, income tax. That's your take-home pay. That's not what child support is based on. It's not, and this is where it gets a little complicated, because it's not based on your gross and it's not based on your take-home. What is it based on is you have your gross income, but even that gross income can be more than what you think it is because it include the value of some benefits. But from that number, you'll subtract only what you pay from Social Security and Medicare. That's why you need to see an attorney. It's not as easy just saying, well, I take home 100, whatever, $500 a week, whatever it is. That's not what it's based on.
Okay. All right. Another one I didn't know.
But I get these every day, so it's not just you. Almost every one of these is, people tell me, when they call me, they think this is the case. And I understand that they're not attorneys. These are things that, we learn when we on the job or go to school, etc.
Or you've been through a divorce.
Oh, it's right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Number 5.
I just lost my job, so I should have to pay less in child support. Well, that's a maybe. Because first of all, let's say you just quit your job because, I want to get paid less. Well, then you're almost never going to pay child support, because what the court looks at is two things. One, did you just quit your job? Did you lose your job through fault or no fault? In other words, let's say you were stealing from your job or you did something wrong. And so that's the first hurdle you have to go through. So first thing is, did you lose your job because no fault of your own? The company was legitimately downsizing or something of that nature. So that's the first hurdle. The second hurdle, which is the one that's harder, most people don't quit their job or do something wrong, is that after you lose your job, you have to diligently look for a new job. So that means you can't just stay at home, collect unemployment, or do anything, do nothing. You have to really actively, quote unquote, hit the pavement in the old style. Of course, now everything is online, but, keep looking for a job that's supposed to be in your field. So if you're an accountant, you're looking for an accountant job. You're not looking for a job in engineering or something that has nothing to do with what your skill set is. For you, radio announcer, radio podcast host. So, and you have to show that through real evidence. So again, I tell my clients who have lost a job, every job you look for, keep evidence of it, keep a log. And if you do get an interview, make sure you get that person's name. Better to get their card even. And this way we can show the court, yes, this week I looked for 10 jobs and I got one interview, but I just didn't get the job. It usually just losing a job doesn't qualify you for paying less in child support. You really have to show these two things.
Okay. Yeah. And that makes sense. So like so people can't just like, if I'm looking for a job and I can't go for like engineering jobs because I'm not an engineer, but I know I'm not going to get that job. So I'm just trying to satisfy the requirement. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yes.
I get that.
I mean, it could be a little bit outside you haven't done sports casting. I don't know. That'd be close enough. Maybe, something like that.
Something that's in the family. Yeah. But not something that's completely out of whack.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yep.
All right. Number 4.
Okay. If I do pay, let's say $100 a week in child support, that means I'm paying $400 a month. Well, no, it's not so easy math, because as most people, if you think about it, there's not exactly 4 weeks in every month.
Sure.
4 weeks is actually 28 days, except for February. Every other month has either 30 days or 31 days. So, and this is actually important because, when doing your budget, that little bit of extra money could make a big difference. A quick way of doing it, and it's not exact, but it's very, very close. If you have a weekly obligation, you can multiply it by 4.3. In this case, that would get you $433 per month, and that's very, very close. So again, some people pay on a weekly basis, some people pay by a monthly basis. Rarely does the court just say, well, on a year basis, pay this, because they don't like to do it that way. It's important to know that it's not just 4 weeks in a month, and that when you pay whatever you're paying for a week, just don't multiply it by 4. Much better to do it by 4.3. That will get you a lot closer. Even that's not exact, but pretty close to being exact.
It gets close to an average anyway. It becomes an average that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, but some people just want to say, well, my monthly obligation is, let's say, $500 a month, and they'll pay it on the first of the month if they can do that. Or they'll break it up, in that example, $250 on the first of the month, $250 on the 15th. But some people want to pay when they get paid, which is some people get paid on a weekly basis, some people every other week.
All right. Number 3.
My child goes to college, I don't have to pay any child support. Well, almost never true. So again, we talked about earlier that in New York State, you have to pay child support until 21. Most kids are going to college when they're between 18 and 21, and usually even to 22. There is a way there could be a deduction or paying less, because if you're paying for a room, if the child goes to college, let's say, outside your area, here in Long Island, let's say someone's going up to Binghamton or Albany, and you're paying for room and board, that amount can be subtracted as a credit towards you paying child support, because part of child support is really room and board in a sense.
True.
But just going to college by itself, again, almost never gets you a reduction in child support. But again, exceptions to almost all these rules, but we're talking about generalities. So again, talk to your attorney.
Yeah, I was going to say, difficult waters to navigate. You got to have an attorney. You got to talk to your attorney, because if you're saying oh, well, if your kid goes away to college and you have to pay for the room and board, you can subtract that from your child support and blah, blah, blah. There's probably a lot of those little moving parts.
A lot of those moving parts, and all depends on, what's going through the divorce. And again, through negotiation, but yes.
Okay. Number 2.
Only rich people need a prenuptial agreement. I say absolutely false. First of all, many people could have very good pensions. Police officers, teachers, other government workers. As you may know, they have pretty good pensions. And even if they're young and their pension seems far off, they're going to have a good little nest egg when they retire. And you can protect that pension or retirement asset in your prenup. So you may not be rich per se, but that is something that, could have a lot of money. So that's number 1. And number 2, you never know what's going to happen in your marriage. Maybe your family has a business. Maybe you're going to inherit something. I always say that it's good to have a prenup no matter what you think whether you're rich or not. So those are just some examples of why having a prenup can really benefit virtually almost everybody.
Yeah, I think we talked about this in a previous episode, but
Yes.
But yeah, the conversation is the part that no one wants to bring up a lot.
No one wants to have it, but you're right, because we did have this conversation. But there's lots of studies that show that having this conversation is a very good one, and actually, people who have prenups have less divorces. That is an absolute truth. And also having a prenup saves you money in your divorce, because you can put a lot of things in there. So when you get divorced, we don't have to argue about it because we already agreed about it.
Yep. It's already been agreed upon. Yeah. All right. And that brings us to number 1. What do we got, David?
Well, this one is something, not that I said I made up, but I put it in because, my attorney never returns my phone calls or emails. Well, I don't know about other attorneys, but not here in Badanes' law office. All phone calls and emails are responded to within 1 business day, and usually even the same day, saying, hey, I'm in court, I'm in trial, but I'll get you back tomorrow on whatever your question is. I can't tell you how many people come to me and they say, oh, my current attorney, I never hear from them, never returns my phone calls, never returns my emails. I'm looking for a new attorney. That doesn't happen here. So, we pride ourselves on good, very excellent customer service, because we know that people are going through, a hard time and they need to talk to their attorney. Like I said, we always promise within 1 business day, but a lot of times even that same day, even at 8 o'clock at night, saying, hey, I'll get you tomorrow.
Yeah, at least some sort of a acknowledgement.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was great. Thank you for sharing those myths. I have one more question before we jump off, and that is,
Sure.
where do the myths come from in your mind? Because I feel like for me, I'm married and happily thus far,
Very good.
but I don't know much about the divorce process. My parents are still together. I never had to go through it. So where do you think the myths come from? Is it TV? Is it from friends, family, all the
I
above?
think it's all the above. TV, friends, reading. I call it being a Google lawyer. You Google something and God knows what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So it just, or sometimes it seems like common sense. Like, oh, my kid's 18. I shouldn't have to pay child support.
Yeah.
So, and New York is and New York's very rare. Most other states are either 18, 19, or 20 or other things. Also, they're in college. Why should I have to pay child support? They're upstate in Albany, or even if they're living at home and going to Stony Brook, whatever. So some of these things seem like they should make sense, but the law doesn't always make sense, so to speak, but that's how it is. So, but yeah, a lot of times it's from friends and TV. I tell people, I know your friends and relatives mean well, but they may not know exactly everything.
And your cases are rarely ever the same.
Very rarely the same. Almost every case is different. The facts are different, so it's hard to put everything in a cookie cutter kind of world.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us on Divorce Law with attorney David Badanes. To connect with David, visit dbnylaw.com. And of course, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel and leave us a review in the comments. David, thanks so much for dispelling some myths. That was a great conversation. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, and have a great rest of the day.
You too. Thanks.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.